Hey guys, good morning. Usually people are talking already in the live chat, so I think probably the 5 people who are watching right now are just here to see what we're going to say. So we'll give it a few minutes here and see if we get any more people lined up and hopefully a few who actually want to join the discussion. Hey Erica, good morning. So today I would like to discuss what dose exactly is meant by lots of Tylenol. How much is lots of Tylenol? And why is it that people saw Christopher Watt's wife saying on social media that she had just given Bella and Cece lots of Tylenol, and it didn't look like anybody had a problem with it? What do you think? How much is lots of Tylenol? It seems to me that if she was giving Bella and Cece the proper dose of Tylenol, then she would have never said lots of Tylenol. To me, it sounds like lots of Tylenol means extra Tylenol beyond proper dosing. And if that's the case, then why didn't anybody object to it right then and there during the live chat? At one point, I think she said she had already given the girls their medicine, and somebody did ask, what medicine did you give them? And I find that rather curious also, because I don't know, I can't imagine somebody saying, what medicine did you give your own children, right? Unless maybe there was some sort of concern about just what medicine she gave them. I'm still curious about which bedroom was actually her bedroom. I'm still curious about whether or not she may have actually been using the main floor bedroom as her own. There was one video where she said she was in her bedroom, and then she changed her claim to say that it was her office. Well, I don't understand why she would have said that was her bedroom if it was her office. So if that was her bedroom, how long was it that that was her bedroom? Years? Months? And why? This is interesting. We have 11 people watching, and just one person said hello. So it looks like the SCATs are up and at 'em this morning. Interesting. I think everybody who's watching should say hello. And feel free to discuss the case of Christopher Watts. Whatever your opinion is, all opinions are welcome here. So if you're watching, I encourage you to comment and let us know what you think about the case of Christopher Watts. Aha! Here we have Miss Badskirt. She's getting dressed for Mass. Okay, then we have just 10 more. It probably is kind of a silly time to throw a live chat on, isn't it? I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the whole dose thing. And then if we don't get too many people commenting, then we'll go ahead and try this at the end of the day. Zena says, good morning, listening while cleaning. Okay, good. Then we don't just have lurkers. Hallelujah for that. I'll go ahead and talk about the dose thing. Jack Russell says, just a shy Bob here. Aw. Well, I'm glad that you guys are commenting, though, because I'm sitting here going, come on, you guys, where are you? Okay. And here's Lynn. Good morning, all. Was surprised to see you early. I planned on hopping back on last night, but I've been trying to figure out how to do live streams from Patreon, and it's been quite an adventure, let me tell you. I imagine at the end of the month I'm going to be charged for things that I don't even know that I just bought or how to use any of it. So there won't be any live stream on Patreon today or tomorrow. I haven't figured it out yet, but I have a feeling I'm signed up for it somehow. Well, I know how. I signed myself up. I'm just not sure what I signed up for. So here we are on trusty old YouTube. But here's the thing about the dosing. To me, that just seems so obvious that there's something wrong. And I think that one of the real hints that there's something wrong was that somebody who was watching, and remember, if you look very closely, she never had very many people watching at all. Just a few people. In fact, at the time of the tragedy, when you looked at her public posts, there were very few likes, if any. I don't think she had a following at all. And I'm curious, was that a way for her to check in with people or for others to check in with her? Was her Facebook and whatever other social media presence a way for her to pass the time while her children were both in daycare full time and while her husband was at work? And I don't mean that she was just bored, so she decided to hop on social media, but was that a way, I guess, how can I say this, for maybe her to be observed? Miss Badskirt, you're just excited. Because think about the question, what medication did you give them? I don't know who asked the question. I don't have the post open at all right now, but somebody asked the question, what medication did you give them? Why would anybody ever ask a parent what medication they gave their own child, right? And then she rattled off for the world to hear amoxicillin, prednisone, and lots of Tylenol. Amoxicillin, prednisone, and lots of Tylenol? And they were standing outside waiting for the Christmas festivity to begin? Was the prednisone for the newly diagnosed asthma? Was the amoxicillin for some sort of infection? Was the, quote unquote, lots of Tylenol for high fevers? How high were the fevers? Don't you think it's interesting that two children would need at the same time prednisone? That two children would both have fevers at the same time? That two children would both be on 3 medications at the same time? The same 3 medications? That anybody would say, what medicine did you give your child? Hey, Susie. Could it be that she was posting on social media as part of her own delusion? There for a while I was thinking she was maybe wanting to be the next Rachel Ray or something with her attempts at doing the kitchen videos. What was it about the rice cooker? The steamer? I think that was how she learned to steam eggs so that way she could peel them. I think that was her video where she was trying to teach people how to peel an egg. And the trick was to steam them in the rice steamer. I'm sorry, but I think Rachel Ray is far beyond how to peel an egg, right? But it seemed to me that she was kind of, sort of, trying to be the next Rachel Ray. Well, could it be that she was somehow trying to position herself as, the super mom, right? Who did more than 90% of the other women out there, as some sort of, I don't know, Munchausen mom with no shame? I don't know. Both kids are sick again. Both kids are sick again. I do more than 90% of the other women out there. Familial Mediterranean fever. Yeah, they're leaning toward that diagnosis for both girls. And then posting a photo of poor little Bella trying to take her own rectal temp with one of her toys. And even taking the photo in the first place and then posting it on social media with a few laughs. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's funny that a 4-year-old child was trying to stick something there as if it was normal. I don't think there was anything normal at all about taking a rectal temperature of a 4-year-old. Hey, Christy. I think disgusting is the word. Definitely, disgusting is the word. And again, it was posted all over social media, right? On the internet for the world to see a little 4-year-old girl with a toy stuck there and posing evidently for the camera. Sally Scott says, so insulting. She thinks she does more. Really? Her children are at daycare all day. Her husband got up and packed their backpacks. Who couldn't keep a clean house? I think the answer was her, because I have a feeling it was Christopher Watts who did the house cleaning. Think about that main floor bedroom. Could it be that that's where she slept? Could it be that that's where she stayed most of her days, I guess, while the kids were at daycare and her husband was at work? That video has haunted me for over a couple of years. Why would she have said that she was in her bedroom, and then she changed it to say she was in her office? Learning that that office was on the main floor puts a whole new twist to that video. Because if her office was just like an annex to the master bedroom, then yeah, okay, I'm in my bedroom. Yeah, I'm in my office. But if she was on the main floor bedroom, if she was in the main floor bedroom, and she started off the video saying she was in her bedroom, and then she said she was in her office, could it be that was actually her bedroom? And could that explain why the house was, in my opinion, always looking like nobody lived there? Would that explain why the neighbors, some of them, said that they had never seen her before? They lived there for something like 5 years, yet there were neighbors who said that they had never seen her before. There were neighbors saying they didn't know kids even lived there. And my hunch is that kids didn't live there. Not if you listen to Cindy Watts, who I believe is credible, a credible source of information on this case. According to Cindy Watts, poor little Bella was afraid of everything, including the dirt. So I think the argument could be made that the kids weren't allowed to live there. They weren't allowed to run and play and to even have their evenings open for some fun. Because remember, they were given, according to Cindy Watts, who, again, I believe is a credible source of information on the case of Christopher Watts. According to Cindy, Bella and Cece were given Tylenol and Benadryl every night at 6:30 p.m. and put to bed. But focus back on that main floor bedroom. Could it be that that's where Christopher Watts' wife spent the bulk of her time? Exactly, Christy. That's exactly the way to say it right there. There was no life at all in that house. Were the children free to speak? Were they free to scream, to laugh, to cry? Do you remember the video where she said, "Do you need a haircut?" Or "Is it time for a haircut?" or something along those lines, saying that to a little girl who wanted to have long hair. And when she got fussy, her mother said, "Is it time for a haircut? Do you need a haircut?" or something like that. To me, that sounds like you better stop your whining or I'm going to cut your hair even shorter. And isn't it interesting that the child then reacted by stopping with the fussy thing going, right? So she knew evidently what that meant. And she obviously didn't want her hair cut again. And of course, whenever we talk about this, we're told, well, it's good to trim their hair so it'll help it grow. Yeah, right. Okay. Is that why Bella's hair was 2 inches long? Because they kept trimming it in order to try to get it to grow? I mean, come on. And then you look at those videos that Cindy Watts sent us showing Bella and Cece the summer of 2018. Their hair was growing. Bella's hair was even thicker. It was growing. I don't think Bella had a problem with whether or not her hair could grow. I think Bella had a problem with whether or not her mother would allow it to grow. Sally says, I think she suffered from right to thrive. According to the autopsy, she was fine as far as her weight and everything. But I do think it's possible that she did suffer from time to time with what we call failure to thrive. And I think it's an interesting possibility considering all the MLMs that her mother signed up for. Rita's saying BPD, Munchausen by proxy. I think it might be something other than BPD, but I'm not sure. I think a lot of us agree with you, Christy, and I think that you're the brave one to say it. Because there was something about her eyes that I think has haunted a lot of us. That I think she was sad, and I think she was fearful. Yes, Susie. And then when they were in North Carolina, they looked great. They looked like they were having fun. They looked like they felt safe. They were thriving in North Carolina. Think about this too. You know how we're told over and over again that Christopher Watts annihilated his family because he wanted to move on with his girlfriend and give her the first, right? Or let her give him his first son or whatever. Baloney. I say baloney. I've said it before. In a divorce, Christopher Watts had everything to gain. In a divorce, his wife had everything to lose. And something that we haven't talked about much is this. If Christopher Watts divorced her, and if Christopher Watts got custody of Bella and Cece, which in my opinion, I think he would have, she would have lost her Rachel Ray kitchen, right? And I'm being generous. She would have lost her stage. She would have lost her storyline. The Lexus was a leased vehicle in Christopher Watts' name, so I think it's fair to say she would have lost any access to the Lexus. And I'm not even sure how much access she had to it in the first place. Because I think that a lot of those videos and photos were taken from the driveway. But there's something else that she would have lost. Remember, she had been claiming on a monthly basis since the middle of 2016. Since June of 2016, she was claiming on a monthly basis that both girls are sick again. Both kids are sick again. Had to go to the emergency room. Oh my goodness. Right? Asthma, familial Mediterranean fever. Lots of Tylenol. Well, in a divorce, what would have happened if every time Bella and Cece were with Christopher Watts, they weren't sick? What would happen to the storyline if every time the girls were not around their mother, they were healthy? I think the veil was about to be lifted. I think the screen was about to be removed. I think the truth was about to be known. And like I said, Christopher Watts isn't the one with anything to lose. He would have gained access to his own paycheck. He would have gained financially. He would have gained control over his own schedule. control over his own time. Tell me anything at all that Christopher Watts was going to lose. You know, the people who have been enjoying trying to hate us, they claim that Christopher Watts would have had to have paid alimony. Like, baloney. No, he would not have had to pay alimony. They want to claim that she was making money. Okay, so then why would he be paying alimony? They want to claim that she would have gotten custody. I doubt it. Why would he have been ordered to pay her any alimony at all? Sally is saying something that's probably going to get us attacked in about 10 different channels by the end of the day. But I do see this being discussed in private Facebook groups, discussion groups on this case. Sally says Bella was certainly underdeveloped mentally. Now, I disagree with that. I don't believe that she was underdeveloped mentally. If you're able to delete it, Sally, go ahead, but they've probably already captured it and they're probably already running with it. That's what they do. But here's the thing, and I think it's okay to discuss it. I do. My opinion's a little bit different. I don't think she was underdeveloped mentally. I think she was a child who had a heavy burden on her shoulders. I think she was not only being self-protective, but she was also being very protective of her baby sister. And I think that the way I think that can sometimes present is that the child is so consumed with her fears. Okay, I mean, come on, she was afraid of the dirt, right? That she can present as being not as far along in her development. I think it's actually quite possible that she was highly intelligent. I think it's actually quite possible that Bella was very knowing, all-knowing about what was going on. Sally says her speech was impaired. I also think she was the reason they wanted her in daycare. She was probably in a playpen or high chair all day. What? When she was younger? I get what you're saying. I do believe that her vocabulary was limited. And I think that's possibly a result of limited interaction. If you think about it, if they're in bed at 6:30 p.m. every night, it doesn't give Bella a lot of time to be asking a lot of questions and to be communicating with her parents. But I think her development mentally, I think she was probably actually super smart. Samara says there's a well-known creator who said Bella looked autistic. Interesting. Well, people are saying that they think that Christopher Watts was on the spectrum. I don't know. Because here's the thing. If Christopher Watts was a battered husband, then his behavior would fit that he would be somewhat hesitant, that he would be observing instead of engaging, right? That he would be smiling inappropriately or trying to please everybody and just kind of, swaying back and forth as a self-soothing technique. And the same is true with children. If there is abuse going on, then they may present with certain symptoms of self-soothing behavior or hesitant speech, or maybe even confusion in their facial expressions as they try to fit in. Sharon says she was intuitive. I believe she was highly intuitive. And I actually believe Bella was highly intelligent. Sharon says, I agree, Bella was all-knowing. I think Bella had a clue about what was going on behind closed doors on Saratoga Trail. I think she had a clue. And I'm curious as to whether or not Bella may have begun verbalizing. Maybe at daycare, maybe with her grandparents. I don't know. About what was going on behind closed doors on Saratoga Trail. Robin says CW was a battered husband. He carved a good life for himself until he met SW, and it was downhill from there. I hopped up on a panel the other day on a channel where the channel creator became a scumbag attacker for a couple of years, and now he's kind of, re-entering the true crime community, acting as if he isn't a scumbag attacker. And I made some kind of snarky comment like, did the Martians take the other one and leave this guy behind or what? He invited me to hop up on the panel, and I did. And it was interesting because one of the first things he said about the case of Christopher Watts was that, his wife helped him better himself, and that Christopher Watts was fat and his wife helped him get into shape and stuff like that. And I was like, no. Evidently, after 3 years of people repeating that narrative, there are many who have forgotten the fact that when Christopher Watts met his wife, he was fit. He was going to the gym every day. It was his wife who had the issue with her weight. Sally says, Chris said the children were disrespectful toward him. They could have only gotten that from their mother. Samara says, Cece was the favorite. Ellen K says, I think they were both really quiet and cautious. Sally says, I think referring to Bella, I don't think anyone spent any time with her. But in the summer of 2018, just look at how she thrived with attention. That's an interesting way to put it, Sally. Sally said she may have been a thinker, not a speaker. Well, and she also may have been too afraid to speak. Ellen K says, I definitely think Cece was the favorite. What do you guys think about the main floor bedroom? Do you think it's possible that that may have been her bedroom? Do you think it's possible that she didn't routinely sleep in the master bedroom? Do you think it's possible that that's yet another lie we've been told? Do you think it's possible that the marriage was over when she was 32 weeks along with Bella? Do you think it's possible that Christopher Watts may have simply stayed in the marriage to make sure that Bella was safe? Do you think it's possible that Christopher Watts is sitting behind bars willing to take responsibility for whatever it is that occurred because he actually does blame himself for not protecting his children? Rita says, I remember thinking, take them outside when they were running around the house. Robin says there wasn't a bed there. CW slept in the basement. There was a bed there. Susie's getting some work done. Good for you, Susie. So are we sure that there wasn't a bed there? Does anybody know the dimensions of that main floor bedroom? Yes, Susie, I think he was riddled with guilt on all levels. And I do think that in the summer of 2018, instead of doinking his coworker, he should have been sitting in the office of a good lawyer, trying to move forward in a way legally that would have protected his children. But to me, it seems to me like he's a little bit like Scott Peterson. It seems to me like the world heard that Scott Peterson was having an affair, and from that point forward, guilty. And look at all the crap we were told about Christopher Watts that turned out to not even be true. But isn't it interesting the connections that the people who were lying about Christopher Watts, the connections they have to people who are actively on social media promoting the narrative that Christopher Watts was some kind of a loser? Isn't that interesting? You guys know that one of the channel creators, one who recently called me a liar, by the way, that he's good buddies with one of the guys who lied about Christopher Watts back in 2018. Good buddies. And you know, the other one who lied is good buddies with another person who's connected closely to the case. Isn't that interesting that after such a tragedy occurs, that people close to the case would immediately take part in lying to the public? I don't know. I think I would have been busy grieving the loss of my friend instead of taking part in any kind of campaign to try to control public opinion. Hey, Daisy Days. Daisy Days says, hey, all listening but cooking Sunday roast. All right. Don't you hate when real life gets in the way of YouTube streets? Robin says CW's issues run too deep. He needs serious therapy. He loved his girls, no doubt. Where is the truth? Well, Robin, we're never going to know the truth because they don't tell people like us. But what they have told us, perhaps without realizing it, is that by telling us that we'll never know the truth, what they're actually saying to us is that we've been lied to, which we kind of figured out already anyway. I agree with you, Robin. I do think that his issues run too deep. I think he definitely needs the help of somebody highly trained in domestic violence issues. Sally Scott says, how about cooking a nice dinner or giving your husband a massage or offering to do the girls' laundry that night? Well, you know, that's the other thing that guy who turned evil for a couple of years was saying, how she tried so hard to save her marriage. And he brought up the fact to support his stance that she had purchased a book for him to read in order to try to save her marriage, you know, because she was so desperate to save her marriage. I don't think she was desperate to save her marriage. I think the marriage was over, actually, even years before the tragedy occurred. I think she was desperate to keep her stage. I think she was desperate to keep her storyline. I don't think buying a book is going to do much, when at the same time she's calling his mother evil. I think she was desperate to keep his income flow. I think she was desperate to keep that kitchen. I don't think she would have been thriving living with other people. Ellen K says his poor family. I agree. I agree. Robin says, ugh, please. She was trying to Dave face with her MLM buddies. I think you meant save face. And I'm curious about her actual involvement with the MLMs. Yeah, Robin, we figured it out. That's cute. She's trying to Dave face. Lynn says, I don't know what happened on August 13th, but I feel the CW is taking the blame and seems as though he isn't going to try to do anything in court. I think if Christopher Watts was female, I think that society would be saying, what happened before the tragedy? Yes, Lynn, through the court system. Samara says he was her slave, basically. I think he was a slave to trying to protect Bella. You know, I've never changed my opinion, but I have expanded my opinion over the last 3 years. And the more that we discuss this case, the more details we learn, especially the details from Cindy Watts, the more I'm thinking that that marriage was actually over during her pregnancy with Bella. I think the marriage was over. And I think Christopher Watts stayed married because he was of the false belief that if he divorced her, that he wouldn't get custody of Bella. I think it was a very real possibility that he would have been given custody of Bella. But I don't think he realized that. I think he believed that he had to stay married. And I think he believed that if he just went to work every day and had the kids in daycare and did his best to keep the house clean and to keep his wife from losing it, that he was doing all that he could do to protect his children. Ellen K says, how many MLMs was she signed up for? I have no clue. Some people say 11. Some people say even more. Robin is curious as to why N.A.'s son knew about the sheets. Yep, there was the stretchy clothes one. What's that, LuLaRoe or whatever? And there were purses and shoes and wine. Wine was another one. She was telling people in December, when she didn't make the house payment, she was telling people to buy, I think, 6 bottles of wine. And then I think they were supposed to expect 36 bottles in return. One of the catchiest, I thought, the most telling, was when supposedly one of her friends used her Facebook profile to post a fundraiser to raise money for her to be able to fly to see her grandmother after she had already flown to see her grandmother. I think it's highly unlikely that a friend would have used her profile to post a fundraiser to raise money for her to be able to do something that she had already done. And I've said before that I think that fundraiser should have been titled, "Let's Pay Her Credit Card Bill for Her." Robin says that CW was definitely brainwashed. The fact he didn't ask for a lawyer at the jump was crazy. And he had friends telling him to talk to a lawyer. And he still didn't. He was not self-protective at all. Samara says, I think it was over after they had Cece. It went downhill from there. I think it was over before that. Daisy Days says, look back on all texts with the friends the last week. She was desperate, in a panic. Out of the two, she was the one likely to snap. And she was saying things like, would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? And she was using the death language a lot, accusing her mother-in-law of trying to murder Cece. What? Accusing her mother-in-law of trying to murder Cece? And telling her mother-in-law that she would never allow the girls to step foot in her mother-in-law's house again? Really? If Christopher Watts had told his in-laws, I'll never allow you to see the girls again, I think that'd be all over social media, wouldn't it? Robin says that she thinks that the scar on her neck was self-inflicted. I think the fact that it wasn't listed in the autopsy is very interesting. Sally says that his mom was on the phone to Scott Reich. When was that, Sally? I haven't seen that yet. That would be interesting. Let's take a look here. It isn't coming up yet. Parents of Chris Watts seek insurance money for wife and children 9 months ago. Chris Watts acting alone 1 year ago. I'll click it for this month and see. Dr. Oz. I don't see anything where his mother is talking with Scott Reich. What am I missing? Robin says the scar was self-inflicted in her opinion. I agree with that. Let's see here. You guys are faster than me. Sorry. Sally says, who says that if we didn't have kids? Exactly, when they already had kids. Ellen K says Cece was extra insurance to keep him 2 kids instead of just 1. Well, and think about that too. Think about it. Think about it if that marriage was over during the pregnancy with Bella. Sally says, and the hardware that they would have used in her neck. Sally says, when Dad was in the room with Chris when his phone rang. Scott Reich said it himself? When? Ellen K says 3 kids would be even more of an incentive financially to have to stay. Well, except Ellen K, I think he would have gotten custody. So, but I do think it was a matter of, oh, I'm pregnant. Can't get divorced right now. And I think that may have been behind the pregnancy with Cece too. Can't get divorced while I'm pregnant. Sally says that was CW's mom on the phone telling the dad to tell CW to shut up. Hey, Miss CD. Sally says Scott Reich said he consulted with the parents. Are you talking about 2 years ago when he said that he told them $250,000, I think, or something to get started, or $100,000 to get started? Sally says Scott said he could have gotten the girl's murder charges dropped and SW's murder filed under the SNAP law. Miss CD says, I had that surgery. I had a 2-level ACDF and my scar is nothing like hers. Ellen K says, true. Sally Scott says, go back and watch Scott's videos during that time. Oh, yeah, Sally, that's what I'm about to do to spend. You betcha. I'm going to spend my day trying to search for that. You know it. Happy Angie says, hey, Bobs. Hey, Happy Angie. Sally says, yes. Robin says, and the third was conveniently a boy. Yeah, cramping and bleeding, do nothing. What the H? 100,000. There, I caught up. Phew. When I clicked back on and I saw those comments, I'm like, uh-oh. So what if the marriage was over during the pregnancy with Bella? And I wonder, have you ever heard of a woman in her early 30s with 2 children and a pregnancy not having a will? Have you ever heard of a woman in her early 30s claiming to be in her early 30s with 2 children, a husband, and a pregnancy with a life insurance policy that did not list her husband and children as the beneficiaries? I wonder. And I still don't get the comment. We talked about it yesterday a little bit. When the friend was told to check the knives. Check the knives for what? Did that mean count the knives? Check the knives for what? I mean, that friend didn't even know how old Christopher Watt's wife was. How was she supposed to know the knife inventory? And if she did know the knife inventory, then why? Ellen K says, is that the surgery that Christopher Watt's wife had to have before their insurance kicked in? Miss CD says, yes, Ellen, she had an anterior neck surgery. My neck is down by my trachea, not up on the side. I met my scar. Yeah, I was going to say, that sounded kind of weird, Miss CD. Like, is your neck in a different place? Sally says, SW was an insurance scammer, though. Remember her fraudulent claim with her older house? No. Are you talking about the break-in where she said she ran back for her phone or something? Sally says, OMG, yes, the knives. Sally says, that was beyond creepy about the knives. Well, check the knives for what? It's kind of like lots of Tylenol, okay? And it's kind of like being told that we'll never know the truth. Okay, just applying a little bit of logic here. If we'll, I guess, accept that we'll never know the truth, if we're told that we'll never know the truth, then just applying a little bit of logic tells me that we're being lied to, right? If a parent says she just gave her child lots of Tylenol, then applying just a little bit of logic tells me that the children were given more Tylenol than what was safe to give them. And check the knives? Well, let's apply just a little bit of logic. And we'll recognize that the friend was evidently expected to know the inventory of the knives. Sally says, yes. Miss CD says, I have good insurance through work. My neck surgery without insurance was 70. Oh, wait, what? 175,000? Really? And weren't we told that it was 25,000 with no insurance, I think? Ellen K says, Miss CD, it is so painful that could have waited a month. Miss CD said it was painful. Sally says, well, maybe they had a knife stand and one was missing from that, like used in a murder. Why else would a knife be missing? Ellen K says, I agree that it was probably painful, but could you have waited until the insurance kicked in? They had insurance. Okay, what am I missing, you guys? They had insurance. Christopher Watts always worked. He always had insurance on the kids and on his wife. Wasn't the story that she had an elective surgery? And my question would be, why would it be an elective surgery if it was a surgery she needed to have? I have another question. Why is it we never heard her talk about physical therapy? Because pretty much, I think people are sent to physical therapy when they have an issue. Pretty much, pretty routine. Robin says, I think that our family are trying to protect the memory of their loved ones, but that isn't the truth. Where are the Watts family? Miss CD says, 25,000 my butt. That wouldn't even cover the surgeon fee. Happy Angie says, remember, out-of-network insurance. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, you're spotting and cramping. You're a high-risk pregnancy with fertility issues, lupus, fibromyalgia, and all the other long list of ailments, symptoms, syndromes, conditions, diseases. And you're going to say, I'm out of network. But remember, she was so successful, right, with her own business. Oh, wait, no, she was an executive with a billion-dollar company, a retired nurse and all. So successful that she would have been sitting there concerning herself with what percentage the insurance company would have paid. Because out of network, which I don't buy for 1 second, out of network doesn't mean they won't pay anything. Out of network means they might pay 70% instead of 90%, right? Alan says, I thought the surgery happened when they were in waiting for insurance to kick in. He always had insurance on them. Miss CD said, oh, yes, I was forced to do physical therapy. Of course. But did you see any posts at all over the last 3 years? Have you seen any posts at all about her talking about the physical therapist? Nope. Charlie says, the brace she wore was not the brace you get. She looked ridiculous. We found it, one just like it anyway, on Amazon.com. I think it was like $50. Miss CD says, Charlie, I didn't even have a neck brace after surgery. I have a question for you, Miss CD. Did you see that video where she's whipping her arms up and whipping her neck and her face and turning her head and everything? Putting her hair up in a ponytail and stuff? Is that how you act after that surgery? I don't think so. Happy Angie, but the kids were at the doctor every other day. Ellen K says, never. Ellen K says, talked about PT. Yes, she never talked about physical therapy. Maria says, agree with you on all, 100%. Sally says, she had her friend from Hawaii come and stay with her. I mean, the children were gone all day. CW was home at night. Why? And that's a good question. Also ask yourself, do you know anybody who has stayed with other people or who has had other people staying with her? I think it was something like 33 months out of a 50-month or 60-month relationship. That's a whole lot of caregiving going on, in my opinion. I'm beginning to question whether or not she ever even babysat for that nurse. I'm beginning to question whether that nurse may have actually been her caregiver. Rita says she wore that stupid brace for attention. It would have been a good way to explain why her friend was moving in too, right? I don't know how long her friend stayed there, her friend, the nurse, but wasn't it like a month or so? Miss CD says, heck no, hurt so bad, no lifting more than 10 pounds for 3 months. Sally says, oh, I never thought of that. Happy Angie says, really weird. When I go visit my friend, it's a week, tops. Exactly. Exactly. It is so weird. But you know, we'll never know the truth. Ellen K says she was probably trying to force a friendship upon that nurse. Or maybe it was a caregiver situation, but just opposite to what we've been told. Charlie says, I had my surgery over 10 years ago and I've still got my scar. Maybe the Thrive took the scar away. LOL. Lots of love. Sally says, remember though, when one of Christopher Watt's relatives was describing his wife and the girls coming for the last visit, that she was saying she'd be there for 2 weeks, maybe 3. And they were like, 3 weeks? Because her and her mom butted heads. Sally says, well, that sounds lovely. Robin says the crime is that CW never called out this BS behavior. He was so beat down. Well, think about it, though. If his goal, if his primary purpose was to try to protect Bella, he was probably doing whatever he thought he could do that would try to, in trying to keep Bella safe. And again, too, think about this, Robin. If he was a woman, then we could point at all those videos as saying, look at that, right? Everyone would be talking about it. But he's male, so we're supposed to believe he's the monster. Miss CD said that she tried to emulate that nurse, I think. Definitely. Miss CD, you nailed it. And all of her posts before she supposedly babysat for one child for the nurse for a couple of months, and all of those posts before, she never mentioned wanting to be a nurse. And then all of a sudden, poof, after she supposedly babysat for one child for the nurse for a couple of months, and then that family moved away, then she posted that she was opening up her own daycare center. She said, it's official. It's official. She's going to open up her own daycare center. And then she never mentioned any daycare center again. And then she posted that she was going to become a nurse. She claimed that she would have a 4-year degree in just 2 years. So that August, on August 10th of 2011, when Christopher Watts proposed to her, he was of the belief that he was marrying someone who was going to be a nurse, an RN, with a 4-year degree in 2 years. Sally said, but they stayed with them for over a year. Ellen K says, I wonder how much her mom and dad, when they were living there. Does anyone know? How much they were paying or how long they were living there? Ellen K. Mandy Bella, I thought it was odd she had her parents move in to help and then charge them rent. And I would say help with what? Because at one point we were told they moved in while she was pregnant, but she wasn't. She had already had Cece. So I don't know. Did she have some kind of problems that she needed help with? Ellen K said, charging her mom and dad. Sorry. I don't know. I have no idea how much they paid. Some people on social media are saying they paid $1,000 a month. There it is. Okay, Ellen K said, I wonder how much she was charging her mom and dad. Robin says, that's the sad part. I don't believe CW is a monster. Not at all. I don't either. I think he needs help. Daisy Day says, one thing that has always bothered me is the midnight feeding. Yes, that is very disturbing. Very disturbing. And one thing that happens in domestic violence is that the victim of domestic violence, the spouse, is often sleep deprived. And to me, when I heard that from Cindy Watts about how he was expected to get up in the middle of the night and feed the kids, I thought, wow, that would really support the theory, because sleep deprivation is one of the first clues that there's something funky going on. Alan Kay says she's a stay-at-home mom and Chris was up with them in the middle of the night. That's horrible. How is she a stay-at-home mom to begin with when both kids were in daycare full time? He did the laundry, he cleaned, he picked the kids up from daycare, and evidently he took time off work when the kids were sick. He was a single dad by the looks of it. Robin says this case is crazy, but I do believe that Christopher Watts is sitting in a jail cell with untold truths. I really wish he would come forward. I'm not sure he's able to articulate what he's been through. He may not even realize it or recognize it himself. If our theories are spot on, then he's probably still believing that his wife is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present, connected to people who are powerful. He may be too afraid to face any of those untold truths. If he was female, I think that he would have a lot of support from people saying, hey, he needs help. He needs help to be able to face what has happened. Brandy says that he is brainwashed. And I think that's an interesting word to use. It's a word instead of using that word, I use the word conditioned and groomed. I think he was conditioned and groomed, and I think that that served well for law enforcement. And I'm not saying that law enforcement conditioned or groomed him, but I think his conditioning and grooming made the case very easy to close. Yes, I think he was abused. Definitely, Miss CD. Susie said, I think CW has dissociative amnesia. Interesting. And simply put, our minds will protect our bodies, okay? If the trauma was too great, that it would be too much for somebody to process or to even remember without harming us, okay, without help, then some trauma stays buried forever. And those memories, those traumatic memories, will only surface when it's safe for the body to do so. Does that make sense? Robin agrees, Susie. It's the same scenario as the woman who buried her husband and still feared his wrath. Wrath, W-R-A-T-H. Who was she? Susan Wright. I think her name was Susan Wright. She stabbed her husband 100 and some times, like 170 times or 70 times or something really bad. I mean, stabbing someone once is really bad, but she stabbed him a lot of times. She buried his body in the backyard. She painted the bedroom. She cleaned the house. And the reason she painted and cleaned was because she was afraid he was going to come walking through the door and he'd be angry with her if the house wasn't perfect. She honestly believed that he could still harm her even after he was dead. She was in with one of the psychologists being interviewed, and she honestly believed that her dead husband, who she stabbed a bunch of times and buried his body in the backyard, she honestly believed that he might be able to hear what she was saying through the ductwork. What's that tell you? But, Christopher Watts is male, so we just want to villainize him, right? We meaning society, social media, whatever. We don't want to say, hey, wait a minute, why is he so afraid? Why are his stories different? Why is he so agreeable? Why is he not being self-protective at all? Why is he saying that his wife made a lot of money? Why is he saying she was successful? Why is he saying she made such good meals, such good dinners? It was usually pizza or noodles, is what he said. Why is he still trying to build her up? Well, that's what abuse victims do. Because they do believe that their abuser is all that. And sometimes it takes years, sometimes decades, for an abuse victim, an abuse survivor, to face the reality that their abuser wasn't all that. Their abuser just had a way of convincing them that they were. Yes, Samara. Susan Wright is out of prison. I think initially they sentenced her to 25 years, and then she was able to get her sentence lowered, I think, to 20 years. And she's out of prison, which, in my opinion, she should be out of prison. I don't think she was lying. I think she was the victim of abuse. I do. Based on watching that trial, the evidence that was presented, I believe that she was the victim of abuse. I do believe that she deserved to go to prison. But I think it's appropriate that her sentence, I think, ended up being something like 16 years total. Alan Kay said, I think Chris was raised well and did what he thought he was supposed to do as a loving parent. She pushed and pushed and pushed until he snapped. He took the plea out of extreme guilt. I disagree. I think that he was well. I agree with you there. And I do think he was doing what he thought he was supposed to do as a loving parent. I think that's the only reason he didn't divorce his wife years before. I'm not sure that she pushed and pushed and that he snapped. In my opinion, I think he was dealing with just trying to cope on a daily basis with keeping his daughter safe. I think he felt trapped. And I think he was convinced by those around him that he was not allowed to divorce her. I think he took the plea out of extreme guilt. I agree with that. But I think what he's feeling guilty about may not have anything to do with whatever happened on August 13th of 2018. Just my opinion. Sally says, abuse for a man is humiliating, especially a Christian man who believes it's their responsibility to be the spiritual leader for their family. And then if something terrible happens, of course, they feel they've failed. Robin says, yes, wrath. So scary. Susie says, I've said this for many months. You could even see how empty CW was at court. It's like, what the F is happening? And again, if he was female, we would be looking at that court appearance and saying, oh my gosh, look at that. You can just tell how battered they are. You can tell how empty they are. And that's what happens with domestic violence. The abuser sucks the soul of their victim, or attempts to, tries to. He looked soul sucked. But when they were talking about the girls, did you see his jaw clench, his knee bounce, and he looked angry? He did not look okay hearing that he was being blamed for what happened to his children. I think he entered that courtroom fully prepared to take responsibility. That's the word he used when he talked to his mother about it, for what happened. I think he felt responsible. I think he felt like he failed to protect his family. But there was part of, I think, his true energy surfacing when his jaw clenched, when he heard those details. He got pissed at one point during that court hearing. He got angry. And you could tell by looking at him. Susie said, yep, till you had nothing left. And that's right on the cusp of when survivors plan their escape, is when they recognize that their abuser is sucking their soul just my theory on the whole mess, I think the soul suckers have already lost their own. They're parasites. They choose intelligent, hardworking people so they can suck that part of their identity. They choose people who are good with money so that they can go ahead and suck that part of their identity. There is a trait reassignment early on in abusive relationships. A trait reassignment where the soul sucker starts to claim for themselves the qualities that they recognize in their targets. You're exactly right, Susie. In reality, they are far weaker than their victims. Robin says she's given a pass because she's dead. I think she's given a pass by so many because she's female and because she's dead. And you know how so many people call him a liar? I do think he's a liar, but a difference in what I think about it is I don't think he's lying to other people. I think he's lying to himself. I think that's why his stories are so different from one day to the next. I keep muting because I'm eating breakfast and I don't want to be chomping while I'm talking, though I'm not opposed to talking with my mouth full. Jack Russell says, I'm not convinced there's actually any evidence that he took anybody with him to his work site that Monday morning. I agree with you, Jack Russell. I agree with you. I think when he backed up into the driveway, he did so because the marriage was over and he was done being told what to do. And I think she heard that truck going in the driveway, and I think she lit her own fuse with anger. Susie said, yes, sadly, why many do not come forward or speak out about it. That's in response to the comment saying that it's very humiliating for men. It's very humiliating for men and women, but our society has embraced women now. Now we need to do a better job of embracing men. Brandy says, off topic, I know, but are you planning on looking into the case of the missing 5-year-old? We could use your integrity. Well, in the true crime community, we don't discuss open cases. the few channels who do discuss it, who are actually true crimers, are very careful to use the words accused and alleged. And they're very, very careful with what they say and do. What I've been seeing happening, so far I've only seen one channel handle I shouldn't say just one. There are a couple of them. Okay, so far I've seen two channels handle the case, handle discussing the case. And that's another thing. Everyone's saying, I'm covering the case. Or people are saying, yeah, they're covering the case. Covering the case? What? Are they, I don't know, maybe they should start wearing like a reporter hat or something. Come on. It's YouTube. They're talking about stuff. Covering the case. Ugh. That just, I don't know, that's a pet peeve of mine. But so far, I've seen just a couple of channels that I think are actually discussing the case, where the channel creators have the intelligence and the integrity to actually discuss the case without, in my opinion, interfering with the investigation. I think that there are so many channel creators out there who are simply being reckless with how they're discussing that case that it makes me wonder if they care about the missing 5-year-old child at all. Susie said, he's not the one who snapped. I agree with you, Susie. Brandy said, I think she did it all. I agree with you, Brandy. Sally says, he may have liked it at first, just let her do everything, go with the flow. But he didn't know. They never stop. It becomes suffocating. And he became exhausted, I think. And once you go year after year with the sleep deprivation, the confusion, the turmoil, it's really difficult to be exposed to walking on eggshells constantly because you're afraid of someone's temper. Well, it's very tiring. Robin says he feels guilty about his children. SW was not on his radar. I think he feels guilty about not protecting his children. Susie said, yep, till you have nothing left. Susie said, yep, seen it and got it. Is that about seeing it in court? Did you notice that when his jaw clenched? That was something, wasn't it? Susie said, in reality, they are weaker. I already read that one. Robin said, yes, agree. She's given a pass because she's dead. I read that one too. Sorry. Okay, where's my highlighted one? Here we go. Alan K. says, I think at first CW thought that his wife was raking in the dough with Thrive since she was the one in charge of the finances. I don't know. I think that she told him he better be a good Thrive husband and go along with whatever she was saying, maybe. I don't know. Sally says, I think she was crazy enough to do it all. And I've never ruled that out. And out of pure guilt, he took them out of the house. But I don't know. It's a 50-50 for me. Alan K. says, yes, Robin Hall. Oh, I love it when a sentence starts with, I don't mean to sound harsh. This is going to be good. Robin Hall says, I don't mean to sound harsh, but it's true. She was an abuser. I agree with you, Robin Hall. Sally Scott says, that's why we needed a trial. Alan K. says, Robin Hall, you don't sound harsh. Susie's laughing until she cries. Susie says, there is none, nada. And I think that's referring to any evidence at all that he took anybody from the house. I think he packed the lunches and got the hell out of there. And then, in my opinion, I think someone showed up at the job site. Robin Hall says she dragged her husband on those lifestyle getaways, which probably doubled the cost. He hated it, seriously. What, you mean most men wouldn't like to stand on a life-size checkerboard and get ridiculed by a bunch of women who are sitting around acting like they have a career? Sally says, all CW needs to say was that his requests for an attorney were left unheard. He had an attorney, Sally. Or do you mean the confession when he was first being interviewed? Miss CD said also his truck would have woken up Bella. Yes. And that may fit in the theory then, right? If Bella started to cry, I don't know if somebody wasn't there who maybe was supposed to have been there earlier. Susie said, oh, Lord Mensa, go down that hole. Are you saying don't go down that hole or go like Nancy Sinatra? You know, I used to have a pair of go-go boots, right? No kidding. I should elaborate on that fact. Yes, Miss Mensa used to have go-go boots. And yes, I'm talking third person for all of you idiots out there who like to go, oh my God, she was talking in third person. But I was 6 years old. So don't take off on any weird, not you, Miss CD, or not you, Susie. I'm talking about the people who like to glob onto 15-second clips and run with them. Sally Scott says, I'm not opposed to talking with my mouth full. Yeah, sorry. Chomp, chomp. What rabbit hole, Susie? Are you talking about the missing 5-year-old or Christopher Watts leaving for work that morning? Susie says, what a circus it's become. She actually said, what a circus it's become, but she corrected herself very quickly, like in the same minute. Miss CD says, actually, probably in the same second. Miss CD says, I've been obsessed with the Summer Wells case. Is that the rabbit hole you guys are talking about? Is that what you meant, Susie? Brandy says, it's a crap show for sure. Sally says, the Wells case is a witch hunt. Makes me sick. What makes me sick are channel creators who go, well, it happened 37 years ago, so it's not that big of a deal. And if somebody goes to social media instead of to law enforcement, then I question, are they just looking for validation? And, it's different if it's, a stepsister who's unrelated than it is if it's a, a parent with their child, and because that's incest. Got news for you, buddy. It's incest if it's a stepsister too. Ugh. Please stop talking about it. It's obvious that people are trying to make excuses for that crap, and they are harming survivors of sexual abuse, of childhood sexual abuse. They are harming them. Yes, Brandy, very reckless. Susie says, nope, some don't care, and it's about the views. There you go. Hey, Kay Cooper. Kay Cooper says, hey, y'all, happy Sunday. Susie says, yep, court. So Susie saw it too, how his jaw clenched right then. It's like, He was going to go ahead and, take the fall, right? But he wasn't going to sit there and be accused of harming his babies. That was my take on it. Sally says, yes. She's Meg Ryan in that one movie, saying, I'll have a slice of pie with a little bit of ice cream on the side, but not too far on the side, and then a little bit more. And do you have the peach or what? How does that work? And I need to have a separate plate. And then the old woman seated nearby says, when she went to order, and after Meg Ryan went, yes, oh, yes, oh. Then the old woman who ordered her pie, seated at the next booth or table or whatever, she said, I'll have what she's having. Sally says, when he was first interviewed, then everything said after that point is inadmissible. I thought it was very interesting how we saw on the video that as soon as Ronnie said the word Lawyer? I think he said something along the lines of, do we need to get you a lawyer? Poof! They came running back into the room. Isn't that interesting? But think about it. Why didn't Ronnie hold his hand up and go, whoa, 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 wait a minute here. I'm calling a lawyer. This conversation is over. Why didn't Christopher Watts say, I'm not saying another word, because it's obvious to me that you're trying to pin this on me and I didn't do anything wrong. Why didn't Ronnie say, Christopher, shut your mouth. Don't say another word. Why didn't Christopher say, Dad, get me a lawyer? You know? Why didn't they say any of those things? Why? Brandy says, I think it was in a text that she said something about drastic measures to be with CW. Drastic measures to be with CW? Drastic measures to be with CW? Susie says, don't. Okay, don't go down that rabbit hole. Okay. Only to the extent that I'll say that I'm really tired of hearing channel creators act like a 12-year-old violating a 5-year-old is no big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal. And that entire thought process that somebody would be on social media blabbing away. Oh, it was a long time ago. Oh, stop it already. Susie said, yeah, summer. Robin says, where's Honey Badger? I miss her. I think we all miss Honey Badger. I was looking for that snoring video the other day because I tell you guys, I'm trying. I get an A for effort, okay? The time I spend trying to, even this morning and last night, trying to figure out the whole Patreon live stream thing. So I'm trying to do some kind of an intro thing because when I first click on a live stream, I don't talk. I just kind of sit here and wait for you guys to gather. So I thought I should do a funny intro. And so I thought, oh, the snoring video. I'll do that. So I was searching through videos looking for the snoring video. Remember when Honey Badger was like, Mensa, wake up. And I was snoring. So I thought that'd be the perfect intro, right, to our live chats, just to kind of, I don't know, lighten the mood or whatever. And I was going through those videos trying to find it. And I just was laughing so hard at some of those videos. I mean, oh my gosh, Honey Badger was just, oh man, she said it. She said exactly what she was thinking, and she said it well. I think Honey Badger said what a lot of us are thinking, but we don't have the guts to say, right? As I take a bite and talk with my mouth full. Dirt and the rain, Carol says. Are we talking about Bella being afraid of everything? Looks like Carol might be in the first couple minutes of the video. Unless I'm missing something here. Oh, I am missing. Oh, you guys have been commenting. Sorry. I'm sitting here babbling. But yes, we all miss Honey Badger. We want Honey Badger. We want Honey Badger. Oh, wow. Where's my last highlighted? Oh, I'm back in the surgeries now. Hold on. Okay, the Wells case is a witch hunt. Happy Sunday. Okay, I saw that one. Susie's saying don't. I agree, Susie. Okay, there it is. Where's Honey Badger? And Susie says, hey, Coop. Hey, Kay Cooper. Sally says, LOL, lots of love. Susie's cracking up. That's when the phone was ringing, Sally said. Why didn't they? Why didn't who what? Shock, I'd say, head in the headlights. A deer in the headlights, you mean? In court? Is that what you mean? Robin thinks Ronnie's an abused husband? I don't think so. That's interesting, Robin. Tell me why. Daisy Day says that wasn't about her husband. What does that mean, Daisy Days? I'm lost. Susie says, be with her fancy man. Oh, you guys are talking about drastic measures? Right. When was that? Was it March 2nd, I think it was, of 2017? So I don't think she would have been talking about drastic measures to be with the man she belongs with or whatever, because she was already with, I don't think it was him she was talking about. And it was right after they got back from that lifestyle getaway, too. Interesting. Carol says, dirt in the rain. I already said that. Brandy says, I think it was when she was texting with her friend, she said drastic measures to be with one she loved. Actually, what we've seen is a Facebook post that was posted in a domestic violence support group on Facebook. That's where Facebook posts are posted, usually. I'm being silly. And I think it was March 2nd, 2017, and it said something like, crap, I can't remember how it started out. She did something evidently, and she thinks he knows, and that it'll take drastic measures for her to be the one for her to be with the one she belongs with, or something like that. Sally Scott is using people's names. Okay. Oh, Sally. Sally's trying to go down the rabbit hole. Sally, can you edit your comment, please, and just go like DW or something? I'll take a bite while you do that. Okay, it took a couple of bites. Now, if you're not able to edit, then if you would remove, Sally says no edit option, only remove. So go ahead and remove it. That'd be great. And then Robin is explaining. I'm going to grab onto this. Robin is explaining, I think so because CW didn't want his mom to come to Colorado, only his dad. Ronnie related to CW. Cindy is overbearing. How is Cindy overbearing? One example. How is Cindy overbearing? And did it ever occur to you that he didn't want his mom to be upset? That he didn't want his mom to leave her job? You do know that Ronnie and Cindy both worked for decades, actual jobs. And she also babysat for the grandkids in North Carolina. She had a very full life, as did Ronnie, right? They both do. Did it ever occur to you that maybe he didn't want to scare his mom, bother his mom, inconvenience his mom? Maybe. Maybe he was being protective of his mom. Maybe. Just saying. But I don't see any evidence at all that she's ever overbearing to Ronnie, ever. But I know we've heard that right from the start, haven't we? That she's overbearing. Okay, now I want to see what Miss CD said here. Where's Miss CD? Okay. If we're going to talk about the missing 5-year-old, then we'll be very careful not to use any names. It is an open case. We're not going to be saying anything at all that would be slanderous, libelous, defamatory, blah, blah, blah. Okay? We're going to be careful about that. Even though I'm not responsible for what you guys say, I'm going to help you not be saying stuff that you shouldn't be saying. And this is why true crimers don't discuss open cases. It's like, But I want to see what Miss CD said, because I know she got hooked on this case. Where is it, Miss CD? Here she goes. Okay. Here's Miss CD. I've been obsessed with the case that we're not mentioning the name of. And then okay, I read that one. Okay, yes, when he was interviewed, then everything after that was inadmissible. And we talked about that. Why didn't they insist on getting a lawyer right then and there? We talked about drastic measures. We talked about, where is Honey Badger? We miss you, Honey Badger. Sally said that's when the phone was ringing. Why didn't they? Head in the headlights. It's actually deer in the headlights. Robin thinks Ronnie's abused. I disagreed. Ronnie said why. Or Robin said why. Okay, here's a good one. I'm looking for Miss CDs. Yes, the infamous snore. You got it, Miss CD. You got it. Jackie says that's a good question. I have no idea what the question was. Okay, here we go. Miss CD says, and then I want to go back up to another one. Miss CD says, sadly, a person's character and past behavior has everything to do with it. Abuse is a cycle. SA is a cycle. It just doesn't stop until somebody breaks the cycle. Past behavior, I meant ask for an attorney. Oops. Jackie says, I agree with Robin. Okay, let me see. Oh, okay, so you agree with Robin, who said, I think Ronnie is an abused husband too. Wow, I don't at all. I don't at all. I think she waits on him hand and foot, quite frankly. I've been on the phone with Cindy for hours and hours and hours and hours. And let me tell you something, and I don't think that either she or Ronnie would mind if I share this. But when it's time for Ronnie's dinner, Cindy's tripping over herself to serve her husband, let me tell you. I don't think she's overbearing at all. I think she's a nurturer. I think she's a wife and a mother who wants to make sure that her babies are fed and safe and warm. And I think that the tragedy truly has crushed her on certain levels. I think she is the epitome of grace, strength, courage, and love. And I think that she has been absolutely abused, attacked, defamed, slandered for 3 years straight. And man, oh man, she's still holding her head up high. Okay, now we're going to tread very carefully into the land of the case that we're not naming. Or let's just say generically, the missing child, right? The missing child case. And I'm not going to post it here because this one is not edited, and I hope it's been deleted by now, but I know even when they're deleted, I can still see them. So I'm going to go ahead and read part of it without reading the whole thing because I don't want to say people's names. Sally says, but the certain person, in that case, has given his life to Christ and asked for forgiveness. Do you think you can be forgiven? Can murderers be forgiven? Those are good questions. Do you think that being forgiven by God for sins makes a hill of beans of difference on whether or not future behavior could, would, or possibly is dictated by past behaviors? I think the core question here is if he has admitted to essaying his stepsister, beginning when she was age 5, by the way, then is that information at all relevant to the present case? And I think there are many people who think, of course, it's relevant. And if you don't believe so, I'd ask you this question then. Have you noticed that people who are discussing this case are shocked to learn that there are 10 registered SAers right in the neighborhood, right? I think like in a 10-mile circumference or whatever, or radius, it would be a 10-mile radius, not circumference. Oh my goodness, there are 10 registered SAers right there? Oh, well, why would you matter? Why would that information even matter? Why would you care? Why would you care? If you don't care about what the stepsister has stated happened to her. You see what I'm saying? What does being registered, meaning being convicted, make the difference? Should it make the difference? Does it make the difference? I don't know. And quite frankly, the more I've seen of that open case being discussed by so many people, the more I question the validity of anything that's being said. And I don't mean from the survivors. I listened to the survivor speak of the sexual abuse that she suffered as a child. And I think she sounds pretty dang believable, quite frankly. Just my opinion. So I'll reiterate what Miss CD said. Sadly, a person's character and past behavior has everything to do with it. Abuse is a cycle. SA is a cycle. It just doesn't stop. And then I'll add my own tag until somebody breaks that cycle. You know what's really important with child abuse and with SA abuse and with any sort of abuse is the reaction that the child sees happening when they are brave enough to tell. Children can survive a lot of stuff. But what is so difficult for a child to survive is when they are brave enough to tell what's happening and their trusted adults in their lives react by ignoring them. That's where the problems really start. That is so important that when a child is brave enough to tell, when anybody, any age, is brave enough to tell, that they're heard, that their words are heard, that they're embraced, that they're validated, and that justice is something that matters to the people they're telling. that their safety matters, that they're treated with respect. Did you hear that one channel creator the other day telling rape victims that they should fight? They should fight. You got to fight. No, 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 no. No, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the only way to survive an attack like that is to comply. Maybe the only way to survive is to fight. Maybe the only way to survive is to watch for that opportunity to run like hell and get the hell away, if you can safely do so, right? But how do you know? Nobody else knows that for you. Only you know in that moment what your own survival instincts are telling you. Sally's saying no one's past matters? Really? Really? Are you kidding? Daisy Day says, Mommy Watts isn't overbearing. That's something the SW drilled into her husband so she could be the controller. There you go. I agree. Exactly, Sally. Maybe Cindy should have gone. She could have told him to shut his mouth and gotten an attorney for him, right? Susie makes an interesting point. At least somebody went to Colorado. Isn't that interesting how the haters have gone on and on for 3 years, how Cindy didn't even go to Colorado? That's kind of interesting. Miss CD says, past behavior is absolutely important. It explains why she would have to be hidden instead of taken to a hospital if an accident occurred. Exactly. Exactly. Good point. Oops, it scrolled too far. Hold on. But Spacebound just said that's a good point. I'm not sure which point she's talking about, though, because it scrolled way ahead. Sally says, if you are saved in the Christ, your past is erased. Well, guess what, Sally? If you are saved in the Christ, your past is not erased at all. If you're in any way a person of interest in some sort of a criminal situation. I'm scrolling here. Let's see. With that line of thinking, I guess anyone could just do whatever they want and then just right? Oops, and then move on, and then do whatever they want, and then oops, and then move on. You have to live your life according to your beliefs, right? Have you heard some of those messages, some of those telephone conversations? I don't know. Yes, Jackie, too. TOO, too much. The question was about too much Tylenol. It was actually about lots of Tylenol. Exactly, Miss CD. Miss CD says, I actually look up to Cindy and Ronnie's marriage. Very impressive to keep a marriage going and strong. You know, they have a marriage that is worth celebrating. They have a marriage to respect. I firmly believe that Christopher Watt's wife wanted a life just like Cindy Watts had. I think Christopher Watt's wife wanted a marriage just like Cindy Watts had. I do. Ronnie and Cindy Watts have nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing at all. They both had solid careers. They both worked for decades. They both saved up their money to provide for their family. Cindy had delicious home-cooked meals on the table at dinner time for her husband and her children. Cindy kept her house clean and she worked full-time and she took care of her children. Hello. I would dare say that Cindy Watts truly did do more than 90% of the other women out there. Hey, Star Mama. I didn't see you sneak in. Star Mama says they just keep trashing Cindy, but I think she is a wonderful person. My folks were married 65 years when he passed. Nice. Susie said, I think she did too, and CW's sister too. Ron says he asked for the parent he could most relate to. I don't get that, Robin. He said to his mother, no, Mom, don't worry about it. You stay home. Don't worry about it. Just send Dad. I see that as a protective son, not wanting his mother to freak out. I believe that too, Star Mama. Star Mama says that Christopher Watt's wife trusted Cindy more than anyone. I believe that absolutely. That is what I think too. And I think she was trying to be like Cindy Watts. Yes, I agree with that, Jack Russell. Cindy Watts was defamed and abused on social media before the murders by her daughter-in-law. Sally says that's how it works. You beg for forgiveness and repent. You guys do know that whole Nutgate thing. I really, there's a thing with parenting that us moms and grandmas learned, right? We know our children will act out when it's safe to do so, right? They're going to sit up straight in church, right? And then they're going to be in the car. You see what I mean? And I don't mean safe as in unsafe if you act out in church or whatever. But we've watched the patterns for, when kids are naughty, when they're not naughty, whatever. Christopher Watt's wife acted out in front of Cindy. I think she felt safe to do so. I think Cece started screaming and she didn't know what to do. I think she didn't know what to do. I think she had so little experience parenting her own children that when Cece started having a conniption fit, that she didn't know what to do. And I think she lost it. She was on the phone with her mom right before she had her meltdown. She was telling her mom that Cindy and Jamie were tag teaming her. What? How does that conversation go? Hi, Mom. They're tag teaming me. What? Remember she said there were razor blades laying all over the house? What? And remember, Cindy never heard anything at all about any razor blades laying all over the house or any accusation that there were any razor blades laying all over the house. That was evidently, according to the discovery documents, said to her mother on the phone before she had her nut meltdown. What? Daisy Day says, yep, so true, MM. Like when they go to grandma's and eat all the broccoli. I think she felt safe with Cindy, safe enough to have her meltdown, safe enough to know that she could yell and scream and make false accusations. You tried to murder Cece. right? What was it Cindy told us during that phone conversation? Remember? That her daughter-in-law suddenly started yelling at her, accusing her of trying to murder Cece. Cindy said this, that she, quote, came charging toward me down the hallway. Came charging toward me down the hallway. I think she felt safe enough with Cindy to do that. And answer me this. Why, after the tragedy occurred, why did anybody care about July 8th of 2018 after whatever happened on August 13th of 2018? Why were so many people talking to the police about July 8th of 2018? Why? And why didn't the police talk to Cindy? Could it be that people didn't want the police to catch the idea that maybe Christopher Watt's wife had major issues going on July 8th? Could it be that somebody wanted to make sure that law enforcement wasn't clued into the possibility that maybe Christopher Watt's wife was losing it for a month or more? Or years? Or maybe even a decade or so? Just saying. Why didn't law enforcement pick up the phone and speak directly with Cindy Watts? Didn't they want to know all the information they could find out? Didn't they want to know Cindy's take on it? Even Christopher Watt's good friend said, yes, you should be talking to his parents. Yes. When the law enforcement officer asked the friend of Christopher Watts who he thought that he should be speaking with, and he said, yes, his parents. You should be talking to his parents. And even then, they didn't talk to Cindy Watts? Why? Were they already falling for the storyline that Cindy Watts was bad and that Christopher Watt's wife was good? Huh? Were they already thinking to themselves, wow, that mother-in-law really must have hated her daughter-in-law? Well, based on everything they were being told, even by the friend who didn't even know how old Christopher Watt's wife was, had no clue, and who claimed in her police interview, the one, I think it was the one where she was afraid she was going to be arrested for something. When they called her, I think she asked if she was going to be arrested. In that interview, she acted as if she didn't even know for sure what Cindy Watts' name was. Really? Huh. Daisy Day says, my dad would have been like a bull if he believed someone tried to kill his grandbabies with nuts and blades. Well, I'm kind of thinking that nobody ever thought for 1 second that anybody tried to kill anybody with nuts or blades. Susie says, in my opinion, Ellie knew deep down that he was framed regardless, but he was framed regardless. I wonder how much Ellie knew before they even walked into the room to interview him. I wonder if they knew about the upcoming court hearing for an ongoing family matter before they walked in the room to interview him. I just think that Cindy Watts should have dialed 911, called an ambulance for her daughter-in-law. But it makes me wonder, how many times did that little scenario play out? Why is it that they say that they walked on eggshells around her? Why? What were they afraid of? Why would you be walking on eggshells around her? I wonder. So how many times before did she suddenly lose her temper and charge towards Cindy Watts down the hallway? Otherwise, why didn't Cindy dial 911 and say, my daughter-in-law is out of control and she's yelling and she's frightening the children and she's frightening me? Because she told us in that phone conversation that she was frightened of her daughter-in-law. So why didn't she call the police? Was she too afraid to call the police? I mean, her daughter-in-law is already standing there threatening that she'll never allow the girls to step foot in her house again. Why not call the police? Get her some help. I don't know. Maybe she was conditioned. Maybe she was groomed. Yes, Kay Cooper. Poor SW was left all alone with her own kids for a few hours. OMG, how dare Cindy. That part of the whole storyline is kind of weird because Cindy told me a different version than the one that Ronnie was saying. So I'm kind of curious about that. But I think that Ronnie may have been kind of trying to take the heat off of Cindy with his version. But still, I don't like it when stories don't match. So I don't know. Exactly, Sally. The whole Nutgate thing is so beyond ridiculous. Here's a very good point Sally makes. If she would treat her mother-in-law like that, just think how she treated her husband behind closed doors. Yes, Susie, it is bizarre, isn't it? Why didn't they question Cindy? Why? I think it is why she was able to have the meltdown, and I don't mean able to have it as if it's a good thing to have, but I think she felt safe enough with Cindy that she was able to melt down with her. You know, I just thought of something. The night before the nut meltdown, Christopher Watt's wife confided some very intimate details of her life to her mother-in-law. So right there you have it. She trusted her mother-in-law. She felt safe with her mother-in-law, right? Could that be why there are so many people trying to attack Cindy Watts? Could it be that that safety zone that she was feeling with her mother-in-law naturally led to her needing to break down? Jack Russell says no, Ellie didn't want to look into it. They had their Patsy. That would be an INTO moment, I think. Sally says, I've always wondered, too, if he actually did fail the polygraph. That's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe he didn't fail the polygraph because you're right. They are allowed to lie. Interesting. Good question. Kay Cooper says, exactly, Spacebound. Susie says, exactly. They know. Sally is referring to the case of Christopher Watts as a, quote, high-profile case. I don't think this is a high-profile case. I don't. I believe this case is on the public stage right before discussion, but I do not believe this case is a high-profile case at all. Susie says, as I've always said too, now that was a meltdown in front of family. What was she like in Colorado behind closed doors? Exactly. Carol says, SW likes to stir. Why? Kay Cooper, from day one, I knew it was beyond odd that the R's never went to Colorado when their loved ones were missing. Their, THEIR, were, WERE. But then SR knew already because she saw their ghosts. Missy D says, SW manipulated a lot of people. Daisy Day says, yeah, Susie. And that's on a normal day. Can you imagine when she came home from her Arizona trip? Carol says, yes, that's what I meant. Playing in the V. Susie says, Daisy, I hate to think. Spacebound says, Kay Cooper, Cindy would have been insane if she'd said that. LOL. Lots of love. Daisy Day says, it's scary, Susie. I get nervous just thinking about it and reading those last texts. Yeah, would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? What? What? Sharon Ann says, I've always respected Cindy. Kay Cooper says, I've loved true crime for over 15 years and nothing in this case makes sense. No other case has had so many oddities about it. Sally says, maybe they were there. Hey, Extinct Tube. Just stopped by to say hi to all and MM. Very interesting. Extinct Tube says it's true that nothing makes sense. Extinct Tube is waving at us. Hi, Extinct Tube. One thing we know for sure, because we've been told, so we'll go ahead and believe it, that we'll never know the truth about this case, right? Well, I don't know if I believe that. I personally believe that there are a lot of people who actually do know the truth. Will we ever be freely able to discuss this case on social media without being attacked by a bunch of scats? Yeah, probably not. But I think there are a lot of people who know the truth about this case. And I think that's what the scats have been put in place to try to control. So that people who do know certain details about this case are not freely discussing what they know. Daisy Day says, maybe they're still writing the script. THY''RE. I do think that there are many people who know many details about this case who are just not saying a word. I think there are a lot of people who think that it's dangerous to speak or dangerous to admit what they know. I think it's interesting when people do say that. Extinct Tube says, I hate how people think that you cannot speak ill of the dead. That gets my goat every time. I think it's interesting because people speak ill of the dead all the time. Look at our history books. There's a whole lot of ill speaking going on. So it's like selective ill speaking, right? It's okay to speak ill of that guy who did XYZ, but dang, you better not say a word about Christopher Watt's wife's behavior toward those children. How dare you? How dare you? Well, yeah, we dare. Because this is a true crime case on the public stage, which true crimers have every right and every freedom to discuss, including, as Sally points out again, comments like, check the knives. Check the knives for what? spraying little Bella in the face with water and laughing and saying, ha ha ha, this is why we had kids? Yeah, we're going to discuss that. Lots of Tylenol? What dose exactly is lots of Tylenol? Yeah, we're going to discuss that. And on that note, we've been talking for 2.5 hours already. So let's go ahead and say see ya for now. We'll talk again soon. My guess is probably in the next few days, we'll have another live chat. And in the meantime, I'll keep trying to figure out how to do the Patreon live chat ones too. Because like I said, I think I signed up for something. I'm not sure what. So I'll dig in and keep trying. Kay Cooper says, exactly, Sally. Too many oddities. Nothing adds up. Yeah, the traveling, wasn't it a makeup bag, I think, too? The traveling makeup bag. I've never heard of evidence being accepted that traveled from Colorado to North Carolina and back again. Because there's something called I think it's called the chain of custody, right? Of evidence. You have to protect the integrity of the evidence, right? Well, if you have a traveling makeup bag, I'm not sure that can be introduced into the evidence locker. Not sure. Miss CD has a plea. Miss CD is pleading with you, please do not give money to help fund attorneys to go after us. Well, I don't think it's us that anybody is talking about going after at this juncture. I think it's the armchair detective. Which, you guys want to know my opinion on that whole scenario? I think I'll call him AD. Well, actually, I call him the VO5 guy. There are two of them now, so it's kind of confusing. But the VO5 guy, I think he's part of this whole money-making, whatever, I don't know, scenario. Template, actually. I think he is in place to try to keep the attention on this case and to be like one of the bad guys, right? I don't think he's just some innocent old fart in the UK who's talking about true crime cases. I think he's part of a bigger picture. I think he's on social media as an antagonist, or at least he's presented as the antagonist. Because if you think about it, how many times has interest in this case absolutely fallen flat? At least 3 or 4 times. And then all of a sudden, there's another drama going on. And most times, the new information is coming from that channel. Well, I would just ask you to take a closer look. How many subscribers does he have? Yet, how many actual comments are being posted in any of his live chats? When you see numbers like some of these channels claim, yet their actual live chats are presenting an entirely different picture, look for the obvious. Watch the numbers closely. I think it's all just a bunch of noise. And keep in mind that his script dictates that he bashes good people on a regular clip. He bashes the Watts. He bashes us. He bashes a lot of people. He does it a little bit less aggressively, I guess, or abrasively than a lot of the other channel creators do. But he does still bash just the same. I don't think he's just some doofus trying to run a true crime channel. I don't. I think he's just some doofus who's in place to try to keep certain cases in the forefront in the true crime community on YouTube. I think that's what he's about. Just my opinion. It's tough for me to think of any other true crime channels that aren't part of the facade with what we've been witnessing over the last 3 years. Are they discussing the case? No, they're discussing, the cellmate of whatever and the girlfriend and the this and the that. Come on, who cares? And on this note, I think we'll go ahead and say goodnight, John Boy. Kay Cooper says, in my opinion, too much Tylenol is more than you're supposed to give, but just enough to knock someone out. Sickening. I do not give my child any meds unless absolutely necessary. And my hunch is, Kay Cooper, that if you're giving your child meds, that you're not giving your child too much. Everybody have a great day. We'll talk soon. Good night, John Boy.